A lot going on in Virginia. Try to sort this all out. One of my favorite politicians, the majority House leader in the Virginia House of Representatives, Majority Leader Kirk Cox with us from Colonial Heights. He's a Republican. Obviously, he's in the majority. And I believe, if memory serves me correct, that's the 66th district.
John, you got a good memory. It is the 66, and it's always good to be with you.
Okay, well, I get there's 100 of them, and most of them I know, and I'm just thinking, I didn't look that up. I think it was 66. Anyway, it is Colonial Heights. We do have Kirk Cox with us, and great to have you with us, as always, Mr. Majority Leader. I tell you what, McAuliffe pulling out all the stops. I mean, he came to Portsmouth, my neck of the woods. That's where our studio is yesterday. And this mantra for Medicaid expansion from the governor is relentless. I mean, he never lets up. And he's playing hardball. What's going to happen?
Well, I want to go to your point in your commentary you were just making. It's interesting. I think why you're seeing the governor so revved up is the polling numbers look terrible for him on the issue of Medicaid expansion. I know obviously a lot of your listeners saw the latest Christopher Newport University poll that says 53 to 41% oppose Medicaid expansion. To your point on Republicans, here's the comment from Quentin Kidd. The intensity of opposition among Republicans is stronger than the intensity of support among Democrats, and independents oppose at 55 to 35. And finally, he says, Democrats are losing the debate on expanding Medicaid in Virginia. So I think what you're seeing a guy that, is really trying to be sort of a populist, go around and really use emotion, et cetera. But, it's interesting, John, when you see polling data, people are much more concerned about the jobs and the economy. And I know that's a mantra we throw out there a lot. But, Virginia's doing very well. I think we have a very well-managed budget. But we got some signs on the horizon that are not good. For example, our sales tax revenues year to date are down about 4.8%. So, we got a lot to concentrate on as far as getting this economy going. And Medicaid expansion not only is, to me, an issue that he has improperly pushed to the forefront, but he's losing. And when you're losing, you tend to throw the Hail Mary.
They are losing the argument. And look, it gets back to the way when the Christopher Newport University polling information validated the Democrats' Medicaid expansion views. They embraced the poll as one of the best polls out there in the history of man. 3 months later, when the results show the opposite, they attack the pollster, the poll, the university, the questions. I mean, it's almost intellectually laughable. They're losing the argument. Now, having said that, though, no one really believes that the Mackster is going to just get up one day and say, let me speak to Majority Leader Kirk Cox. Hey, Kirk, you know what? You're right. I think I'm going to back off on this thing. I'm going to decouple the budget. You were right the whole time. Let's go. Come over. Let's have a drink. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, unfortunately, you're probably spot on. I mean, just his tendency, if you look in life even, if you read his book, What a Party, which is an interesting book, he is a guy all about the big play, the bluff, let's see if I can sort of, bully or sweet talk the other side. And I agree with you. I don't see him probably doing that. But at some point, as governor in your first year, you have to go, do I cut my losses? Do I take that big of a loss the first year? So that's got to be part of the political equation. As you know, there are all kinds of rumors going around. Will he do something by executive fiat or executive order? Will he make the grand gesture? And that's all speculation. But I'm with his history, I tend to agree with you. I don't see him probably giving me a call to come over for a nice chat.
No, look, I don't either. But if you kind of analyze this, Mr. Majority Leader, and I said this going back to March, I think the play is that he's going to wait to the 11th hour and then say, I've got a pen and a phone and I got an email machine and I'm going to basically do this by executive order, try and stop me. Then what are you going to do? You're going to call the Silver Fox, get Mark Herring on the phone. He's not going to do anything. I mean, he's going to say, well, I got to, look at it. So he's not going to do anything. So the real question becomes, how do you stop that?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I think if you do look at the executive order piece, and I know you value the Constitution a lot. I was a 30-year government teacher, so, I mean, I do think we need to make the fundamental point that, the Virginia Constitution could not be more clear that you can only appropriate money by law. Only the legislative branch can pass laws. It's very clear on separation of powers that, the executive carries out the law. So, first of all, he's on we've had this conversation, shaky ground. We'll contest that. Now, I'm not going to give away our entire strategy.
Right.
But, we're obviously looking at that. We're just not going to go, oh, that's nice, Governor. You're going to do your typical over-the-top bluff. I mean, we'll be ready to contest that. You do make a good point with the Attorney General. I mean, he has been such an activist Attorney General and has seen that he basically makes political decisions. We obviously have no confidence that he's going to be our lawyer. But we're really looking at all of that, exactly what we would do. But we'll have a strong action if he does that. Because I'll say two or three things. I think the public clearly is tired of that with the Obama administration. They do value this is a unique system that only works if you have true separation of powers and if you have the people's branch have a say-so. Why are we there if everything's going to be done by executive order? I mean, why have a legislative branch? So we'll vigorously contest that. We think that's absolutely wrong.
Mr. Majority Leader, Senator Don McEachin, by the way, is going to be on our show at 8:38 today at a big press conference call yesterday, basically saying, look, we have a compromise. The compromise is called Marketplace Virginia. We have 3 Republicans that think this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Why don't you guys just get on the compromise team? How do you respond to that?
Well, Marketplace Virginia is nothing more than another version of Medicaid expansion because, once again, I always make the counter. Don mentions the 3 Republicans. If he gets to mention the 17 Senate Republicans that are adamantly opposed, he also forgets to mention the 67 out of 68 Republicans rejected Marketplace Virginia in the House. So I would say that it has very little support. And what's interesting, it's a 3-page concept paper. I'm not sure even 3 pages, depending on the font that you use. And the problem with Marketplace Virginia is you're working under basically the Medicaid system. You have to apply to CMS, the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare, for waivers to make all of that work. And a quick example is it's supposed to have market principles. So you talk about things like copays. One of the things would be that you'll have some skin in the game if you're a Medicaid recipient, so you'll make a copay. The problem is CMS has been very clear you can't enforce that copay under Medicaid, and the copay's got to be very low. A work search requirement that's supposedly supposed to be in there. Pennsylvania was turned down on that. So you're relying on the Obama administration to allow you, with a 3-year temporary waiver, to do basically these market principles. And even if they grant you a waiver or two, which I think is problematic, when the permanent waiver comes in, I see all of that going away. So, and frankly, I don't think the Democrats are enthralled with Marketplace. They go back and forth from Governor McCullough's straight Medicaid expansion to Marketplace. I think, frankly, it's just, let's see what sticks to the wall. And Don's also, I think when you're losing, you're constantly throwing things out, et cetera, and I think that's part of it, too.
So you think that this is just, what do they call it when you're losing? You throw things on the wall and see what sticks kind of a deal?
I really do. I know he also said yesterday that, the Republicans need to, put forth their Medicaid expansion plan. 2 quick comments to that. We have said very clearly the budget's the number 1 priority. Let's get the budget done. We've said number 2, Merck, and we've talked about this on your show, the Medicaid Innovation Reform Commission. Let's reform Medicaid first. But number 3, we've said we'll have a special session. You pick the timing. We'll be glad to thoughtfully look at Medicaid expansion. I've said numerous times I've got so much skepticism over the federal government coming through with their supposedly 90% contribution. The speaker's laid out some broad principles he would like to see in an editorial. But those are basically principles I think Don would really struggle with. For example, no federal money, because we don't want to be entangled with federal money. Obviously, a much smaller targeted population, the very, very truly needy, and free market principles, which you could do more effectively if you weren't taking, obviously, federal money. And so those, and I want to be clear, he said those were principles of what maybe something would look like. He didn't say, that was going to be exactly what Medicaid expansion would look like. So, I think Don is just, once again, just throwing things out to see what sticks to the wall.
So, by the way, Common Sense News Time is 7:27. This is the John Fredericks Show across Virginia. We're with Majority Leader of the House of Delegates in Virginia, Kirk Cox. Mr. Majority Leader, final question at the time that we have. The mantra, the constant argument that says, look, take the money because it's going somewhere else. I mean, hasn't that proven to be a false argument now that it's not like this money is earmarked for Virginia, and then if Virginia doesn't take it, it ends up in New Hampshire, right?
Exactly right. They've actually done a truth-o-meter on that, and that's just not the way it works. I mean, the money goes up, it goes into a big mixing bowl, and then it goes back to states to pay for a whole host of federal programs. And frankly, if you're whatever state, if you're California and you go for Medicaid expansion, that population gets Medicaid expansion money no matter what Virginia does. It has nothing to do with, what Virginia does. And I also remind folks that you better be very careful with your dependence on federal money. Currently, Virginia gets about $1.50 back for every dollar that we send up. And so we are a net plus as far as federal funds go. It's funny. Everyone was making the argument a year ago with sweet sequestration was you better become less dependent on federal money. Interesting, that argument sort of went out the window. So I would say that does not pass the smell test at all.
Yeah, I mean, the arguments are dwindling. That argument is just not real. That if you dig into it, like you say, it's just it's a false narrative. It's a red herring. This idea that hospitals are going to go under because of without Medicaid expansion, when half the hospitals that McAuliffe visits, you got CEOs making millions of dollars. I mean, the whole thing's asinine. Hey, we're out of time. We want to thank Majority Leader Kirk Cox for being with us. Final, I got to give you one shout out. Are you going to be at the Republican convention in Roanoke on June the 7th?
I am, John. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be out there, and big Ed Gillespie supporter, and so. But I'm looking forward to it. I think he's going to be a very strong candidate, and I think this particular issue of Obamacare is really going to make that an interesting election with Mark Warner.
Well, that's going to be it. We're out of time. We want to thank Majority Leader Kirk Cox for being with us. By the way, Mr. Majority Leader will be broadcasting that back to the state live starting at 10 a.m., gavel-to-gavel coverage. So come down. We'll have you on the air. Great to have you with us, sir.
Thanks, John.